Hi guys. So I did two readings of the two books that we're going to compare and contrast in Success Block for today and tomorrow. However, I don't know if you guys will necessarily go to the correct Nearpod. So I'm also going to include the readings in this Nearpod. Let me share my screen. Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. Women in the 1800s. Susan B. Anthony was not at Seneca Falls, New York in 1848. She did not hear Elizabeth Cady Stanton give her famous speech. But when Susan met Elizabeth 3 years later, she knew she had met a friend. The two had so much in common. Both Susan and Elizabeth agreed that women were not being treated fairly. Both agreed that the laws should be changed. And both agreed that most definitely, women should have the right to vote. Soon, Susan added her voice to Elizabeth. They worked hard to get everyone to understand their ideas. Susan traveled all around the country, giving speeches and writing about her feelings on women's rights. Many men and women listened to what Susan had to say, but not everyone agreed with her. Some people yelled and threw things. Once, Susan was even arrested by the police. This did not stop her. All right, that was the first passage. This is the next one. This book is a little bit longer because this is an actual book and that one was just a passage. So here we go. Elizabeth leads the way. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the right to vote. Elizabeth leads the way. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the right to vote. We do not expect our path will be strewn with flowers of popular applause, but over the thorns of bigotry and prejudice will be our way. Elizabeth Cady Stanton. What would you do if someone told you you can't be what you want to be because you're a girl? What would you do if someone told you your vote doesn't count? Your voice doesn't matter because you're a girl? Would you ask why? Would you talk back? Would you fight for your rights? Elizabeth did. All of these things used to be true back when Elizabeth Cady was a girl. And all these things might still be true today if Elizabeth hadn't led the way. She was 4 years old the first time she heard a woman, say life is better for boys. The women had come to visit Elizabeth's new baby sister. What a pity it is she's a girl. How could anyone look at a little boy a little baby and feel sad. What could be wrong about being a girl? She was 13 years old when her father, Judge Katie, told a woman whose husband had died that the farm she had spent her whole life working on would be taken from her. Without her husband, the law stated nothing belonged to her. Elizabeth was horrified by this unfairness. She said that the law should be cut out of every book. Judge Katie told her that wouldn't change anything. The law was still the law, and only men were allowed to change laws. The words that she sang out of her mouth is preposterous. She decided right then and there that she could do anything any boy could do. Sorry. She jumped over hurdles on horseback. She rafted across a raging river. She won a prize for being the best in Greek studies. Her father was so proud, but he worried about his strong-spirited, rule-breaking daughter. You should have been a boy. He knew how much easier her life would be. But Elizabeth wasn't interested in easy. At 16, since colleges would not let girls in, Elizabeth begged her father to send her to a girls' school to continue her learning. So, while most young ladies were getting married, washing dishes, doing laundry, having babies, Elizabeth was studying religion, math, science, French, and writing. Several years later, Elizabeth Cady met Henry Stanton. He was an abolitionist speaking out against slavery. He understood how unfair it was for people not to have rights. He did not laugh when Elizabeth talked about freedom. He did not laugh when Elizabeth said all people should be able to live life the way they chose. And he did not laugh when she told him she would add his name to her own, but would not give up hers just to marry him. So Elizabeth Cady became Elizabeth Cady Stanton and had babies, cooked meals, washed dishes, mended clothes, and did laundry. She loved her babies, but she did not love cooking and dishes and mending and laundry. One day, her friend, Lucretia Mott, invited her to a lunch. Lucretia had always shared Elizabeth's ideas about all the things women could do and would do if they only had the right. The other woman at lunch shared them too. A meeting that would gather together lots and lots of women from all around to talk. But what would they talk about? There are so many things that need to be set straight. Married women couldn't own property or even the money they worked to earn. Elizabeth had learned long ago that only men could change the laws because only men could vote. That was the thing that could change everything. If women could vote, they could help change all kinds of laws. This idea was so shocking, so huge, so daring. Elizabeth's friends gasped out loud. If they were flabbergasted, what would other people think? And then you see Elizabeth over there saying, "That's it." And the women are going, "Oh, that's a gas." Elizabeth did not waver. She knew voting was the only way to make a difference. Her battle cry for the right to vote rang out. Have it. We must. Use it. We will. Even her Henry thought she had gone too far. But on July 19, 1848, when Elizabeth arrived at the meeting place, she saw for herself that she hadn't. The small church in Seneca Falls, New York, was filled with hundreds of people. Elizabeth read aloud what she and a few of the women had written together. Their declarations of rights and sentiments challenged the idea of a Declaration of Independence, that all men were created equal. When she finished, she looked into the faces of the crowd and waited. The room was silent. Then a rumbling began. It grew louder and louder and louder as the people argued whether or not women should be allowed to vote. Okay, this slide is empty. Word of the meeting spread like wildfire. Fire. Newspapers across the country scolded her for her boldness, but other women joined her in battle. The idea of women having the right to vote began to buzz the ears of the people from Maine to California. Elizabeth had tossed a stone in the water, and the ripple grew wider and wider. Many said Elizabeth must be stopped, but she was unstoppable. She changed America forever. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, 1815 to 1902, was married to Henry Stanton for 46 years and raised 7 children. Throughout this time, she worked tirelessly for women's rights. She even ran for Congress in 1866. She reasoned that although she couldn't vote for men, men could still vote for her. In 1869, she and Susan B. Anthony created the National Women's Suffrage Association. Elizabeth served as president for 21 years. She never limited herself to campaigning, only women's rights to vote. She was passionate about girls' sports, property, and child custody rights for women, co-education, equal wages for women, reforming divorce laws, abolition, and birth control. Elizabeth's daughter, Harriet Stanton Blanche, followed in her mother's footsteps. In 1907, Harriet organized the Equality League of Self-Supporting Women. On Elizabeth's 18th birthday, more than 6,000 people poured into the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City to celebrate. She was honored as the Grand Old Woman of America. And for that year, Stanton Day was declared. In 2006, New York State made it a permanent official holiday. Elizabeth Cady Stanton died October 26, 1902. It took 18 more years after her death for women to get the vote. The 19th Amendment went into effect in August 1920. It was Elizabeth who had gotten the ball rolling. We owe her a huge thank you for her efforts and this triumph.
That's supposed to be towards this triumph. But okay, so now let's get into the lesson.